Every football game has referees. Nobody invites them to the post-game party, but everybody expects them to keep the game fair. Construction Funds Administration serves as a similar role on construction projects. It's an independent third party helping ensure the money gets distributed according to the rules everybody agreed to before kickoff. Today, we've got a very special guest, Nolen Tuttle, who has spent years doing exactly that. She's going to help us understand why this process is becoming more common and why contractors shouldn't automatically fear it. This is the Contractor Success Forum. I'm Wade Carpenter with Carpenter Company CPAs, alongside Stephen Brown with McKay and Whitley Bonding and Insurance. Nolen, thank you for being here. Stephen, can you tell us about our very special guest today?
Yes, we're thrilled to have Nolen as our guest today. We met because she helped spearhead and be president of the Tennessee Surety Association, which is fantastic because we have been hoping someone would help lead us back together again. She brought her roadshow from Nashville. Nolen's in the Nashville area to West Tennessee, and we had a reunion of old friends, and it's amazing. We had so much fun catching up with each other. So thank you, Nolen. Thanks for being our guest. Thanks for telling us what you do. It's just amazing your credentials and your experience in the construction industry. Tell us how you got started and a little bit about your company, Upside Guarantee.
Ah, thank you. Thank y'all so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I started my career in public accounting. I was an auditor, and I remember graduating from school and starting public accounting. And I didn't know that people would hate me, which is hilarious. And nobody wants their auditors in the office. And so I start my career, I'm like ready to do accounting my whole life, right? I wanted to be an auditor forever, which is, I don't know, I guess a little rare. And I learned pretty quickly that nobody wants you there. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of tough. So I decided that I wanted to do something a little different. I fell backwards into surety. At that time, I was working in Birmingham and I decided I wanted to move to Nashville. And I got in touch with a recruiter, and that is how I fell into surety. I'm so grateful now that I have. But as y'all know, it's such a niche industry that people don't know much about unless they have a reason to find it. So that's when I started underwriting. And I did contract and commercial underwriting for several years in Nashville. And I ended up making a change and doing management consulting for a while. And while I was in a management consulting role, I got a call from folks that I had crossed paths with in my surety days. And they were like, Nolen, you are a CPA, you've been an underwriter. We really want you to start a funds administration company so that we have access to one because we need to have one that we can trust, right? A huge risk in funds administration is you got to trust the people in charge for so many reasons. But the obvious one is you're managing millions of dollars on behalf of other people. And so they knew that I had kind of the resume for it and the experience for it and the integrity for it. And they asked me if I would be interested in doing that. And I was like, yeah, I'll start it if y'all will use it. And it was just a perfect opportunity. I feel so grateful that people trusted me enough to ask me to do this. And that's what prompted me to leave consulting and dive into surety for my career and launch Upsize. We started in 2024, and it's just been a whirlwind. I'm so grateful. You never know how a new venture is going to go. You just don't. We entered the market, and the response has been tremendous. People have been very supportive. I think people really do appreciate my background and see how my, of course, accounting, but also underwriting experience is so relevant. And I'm able to structure these deals in a way that makes the most sense for each one because of that experience and structure our approach to each project in a way that makes sense. So it really targets the risk that the underwriter had in mind when they added it as a condition. I'm grateful. It's been a great journey so far.
So, Nolen, if you would, just to kick us off, tell our listeners what funds administration actually is.
Yeah, of course. It is a third party financial monitoring service on construction projects for the purpose of reducing risk. The real core mechanic around funds administration is the controlled disbursement account. So we open a bank account on behalf of the contractor on a construction project. The account is in their name and their tax ID, so they own the funds in it, but we are the only ones that have access to it. So we administer the funds on that project for the purpose of ensuring that those funds are used on the project itself and not on a different project and in a certain order of priority. So we're always going to pay vendors first, the subcontractors, suppliers, anyone with a payment claim, to make sure that they're paid currently and correctly, right, to mitigate the surety bond risk, the payment risk. And then we will calculate the overhead and, of course, reimburse our client for their labor and any direct costs that they've incurred on the project. And then we'll calculate their overhead and profit that they've earned based on a percentage of completion calculation. So that is the core mechanic behind it. And of course, at the same time, we are monitoring their project budget. We're asking for their job cost breakdown and we're calculating each draw against that breakdown and seeing how they're tracking. Is the job cost breakdown accurate? Are we looking like we're burning cash a little faster than we thought? Is their profit margin sustaining or is it shrinking a little bit? What are the risks on this? And how is it tracking against what we thought would happen at the beginning of the project so that we can highlight some risks in real time for the sureties? We give monthly reports that are quite thorough. We probably give underwriters more than they want to see. I laugh all the time. Like, we send them these very detailed emails. I hope that they read them. I'm sure that they do, but it's a lot of information. And the goal for us is just transparency. The benefit is to have us on the project in partnership with the contractor, monitoring these things and making sure that the surety knows at any given time how the project's going.
So, what is the reality for a contractor? I know I've had some experiences in the past with some funds company that are really bad about getting the funds out. A lot of times, contractors think it's a horrible death sentence because they're chasing their cash, and a lot of times they don't have really good job records. That's a two-way street I've seen where sometimes the data is coming into the contractor, and then we got to get it to the funds company, but it's a two-way street. I was really intrigued to hear how you work. So tell us about how you work with contractors and how you smooth that process out.
Yeah, absolutely. We find communication and partnership to be the two most important things when we are dealing with contractors. We want to tell them in advance what we'll need to see in order to make payments so that they have a clear checklist. And early in the project, we'll also just get an understanding of their operation. What does it look like when we're not involved, right? I would say Upside is more of a boutique funds administration offering in the sense that we have the guardrails up on every project, but the way that we apply those might be different for different contractors because our goal is to hear how they operate and for us to assimilate into that as much as we can. If there are things that we can change about the way that we partner with them that make things easier for them, whether it be taking information in the format that they have it and not requiring them to do a certain form that we have. Of course, we have a draw request form. It's online. They can use that. It's preferred. It's easy for them to complete where they tell us what subs and suppliers had costs during that month and send us the documentation for those costs and their preferred payment method and things like that. But if they have the information in a different template, if they already have all of that in an Excel that they like to use, we're not going to make them redo it, right? Our whole goal is to assimilate into their operation as much as we can and make them feel like they're being supported and not policed. Of course, we're going to have the guardrails up. Those don't change. But if there's a way for us to really feel like a partner to them, then we're going to do it that way because that's the most important to us. As long as we're making sure that we have the controls in place, let's work together. And so I would say that's really important. And then two, efficiency. We turn draw requests around in 24 hours. And so we are very quick to when they submit it, we get notified. We're on top, our team is on top of it. We're quick to let them know if there's any documentation missing so that they can go ahead and get started on obtaining that information. We'll help them with the lien waiver process if that's not something that they're used to doing. We can draft all the lien waivers for them and create e-signature links and really try to take as much of the administrative burden off of them. Of course, we're an added step in their normal process. We can't change that. Maybe there's things that we can take off their plate that make us feel like more of an administrative support too. The partnership, the communication, and the efficiency, the quick turnaround that we have really builds trust with them. And they see us as, hey, they're really trying to help us. They're not trying to block our cash flow, right? That would be very counterintuitive. We are not going to take a week to turn around their cash because, yeah, that's not fair and it's not helpful and it doesn't mitigate the risk that we were put in place to mitigate.
And how you do it is great for our listeners to know. This is a people business and we're dealing
Mhm.
with people and contractors and their money. It's a very emotional thing. I
It
get it. It
is.
is with any business, in any business. From my perspective, when I think about all the different options for funds administration to help smooth the project deal, putting it together in the first place, especially with private owners, especially in a job where there's a lot of materials to be purchased up front. And that's
Mhm.
going to take a big hit on your cash flow. From an owner standpoint, from a lender standpoint, from the contractor standpoint, and from the surety standpoint. I can speak from the surety standpoint. We write performance and payment bonds. If we know the payments are
Mhm.
being made, that takes a big chunk out of the underwriting exposure. And a lot of times, especially on a job that the underwriter's worried about the cash flow situation, funds administration is the answer to getting it approved instead of denied. Would you tell us a little bit about the owners, the lenders, the contractors, how funds administration can help them?
Yes. So, from a contract perspective, you nailed it. We really help them think through cash flow and we can build out a cash flow model for them for their project. And I think it's not native for contractors to think through a cash flow perspective. They're just, I don't think, used to it. Nobody should hand me a hammer and go ask me to build a building. I can't expect a contractor to be an expert in cash flow unless we educate them. And so we really consider our jobs to be educators. We help them understand the cash flow needs of the project in any given time. I think one of the hardest things for contractors to understand is that you can have a profitable project and still a cash flow problem. A cash flow is at a point in time. The whole purpose is to make sure that you have the cash flow that you need to get to project completion so that it is profitable. If you can't get to project completion because you don't have the cash flow to meet the immediate needs, you're going to have an issue. So, from a contractor's perspective, we hope to educate them and give them the tools that they need for the current project. And we hope to graduate them out of us, right? We hope that they get to a place where they build trust with a surety and they have the tools and the education to know how to structure their contracts going forward, right? So that they can meet the cash flow needs and they know how to manage that and they don't need funds administration forever. From a lender's perspective, gosh, lenders are so interesting to me because legacy lenders only use on site inspections as a risk mitigating tool. They really don't monitor the payment flow downstream. I would say some owners are the same way. They really rely on inspections to make sure the work has been completed, but they don't know, they don't have the transparency of the funds flow downstream. So I'll give you an example. We were brought in on a project by a developer this year. And unfortunately, we were brought in when it was a little too late and some damage had been done, and we were mitigating the rest of the project risk. But they are a retail franchise owner and they were building a new location for their franchise. And they were using a great GC they'd heard great things about. There were no concerns. They looked like they had it all together. They were sending somebody out there once a month to make sure the job was getting done. And they had paid them through an AIA contract 4 months, I believe, $450,000 to the GC. And all of a sudden, they start hearing that none of the subs or suppliers have been paid. And they were genuinely confused. Wait, how does this happen? We sent the money to you, to the GC. What happened? And they just weren't aware of the risk of, hey, we don't have insight into where that money went. What was really hard is the GC didn't even mean to do anything wrong. They were growing too fast. They did not have a sophisticated back office and were not tracking the funds by project. And all of a sudden, they went to work one day and they don't have any cash. They couldn't tell the owner where it went. They really couldn't. They were like, we're just out of cash. And so thankfully, we got put in touch with them and we audited the whole project essentially. Who did work on this project? What are the outstanding invoices? Who needs to be paid? And of course, put together the cost of complete. And it was not a bonded project. And going forward, we've now become a part of their ongoing operations for every location.
This is exactly what our listeners like to hear. Also, the role of an architect in seeing that the work is done according to the
Mhm.
specs and the quality. Is it up to speed? The money being there to pay the contractor on private jobs specifically. I can't tell you how many times I've told one of my customers, get a letter from the bank that the funding's been set aside to pay you for this project. And they're like, oh, no, you don't understand. This is a big developer. And you're like, no,
Exactly.
get the letter. And in one situation, they weren't getting paid. And they used that letter to the bank saying, hey, you said the funds were there to pay. I've done the work. And the bank ended
Mhm.
up paying and they went back. The bank was on the project anyway. They had
Right.
to see the job finished. I think it'd be interesting if our listeners could hear a little bit maybe about how that helps the whole construction process, not just the cash flow, which it seems counterintuitive that funds administration would slow down cash flow, not speed it up. If there's no cash flow, there's no slowing it down or speeding it up. That's the point I was
Mhm.
hoping folks could get.
Absolutely. I tell people we can only control the cash that we have access to. We only know when it hits the escrow account, that's when we can prioritize it and use it. But if you're not getting the funds from the owner, that's a whole nother risk to mitigate. And you're right. It is so important to validate that the funding is there and set aside and reserved so that you have access to those documents if there's a slowdown, because that's really the avenue that you'll need to pursue to get paid.
Yeah, I was impressed at one of your designations, known as a project management professional. You went the nth degree to try to understand what it's like being a contractor. Maybe our listeners don't know that because a lot of times Wade and I explain to our listeners, we can help you with your business and your finance and your bonds and your insurance and your risk management, but we can't do what you're doing. We cannot build what you're building.
Yeah, it was something that was important in my consulting role to learn how to manage multiple projects at once and all of the moving parts of them. It was actually quite a process, but it's come in hand. I mean, I tell people all the time if they need a project manager, they should really just hire a mom because, or a parent, I guess, a mom or a dad, right? That's just juggling a million things because it comes so naturally because you've learned how to do it. But you do have to learn how to manage multiple competing priorities. And so that's really the key. And I do feel like I can relate to some of these project managers and contractors. I know they have, if they were just focused on our project, then there might not be a problem, but they have five going on at once. And we know that. And so if we can support them as much as we can on the one project or two projects that we're involved on, take something off their plate and know that when we educate them on those one or two projects, they're going to extrapolate that to their whole approach, hopefully, and we can really help these contractors scale because they have to understand how to manage all of those things in order to scale effectively. So I am a little bit of an education junkie too. I always am after like the next thing, and I've had to slow myself down a little bit sometimes and be like, hey, this is enough. But I
Oh,
just love
yes. Hey,
to
welcome
be
Nolan to Wade Carpenter here. You two are
all
kindred
that.
spirits.
I saw that, Wade.
Yeah. I'm really glad you're talking about all the cash flow aspects of it from the contractor's perspective, because I remember years ago we had one that was in funds administration and they were used to billing by the month, but they were
Mhm.
burning off hundreds of thousands of dollars in labor every week and they couldn't cash flow it. So
Mhm.
I actually ended up speaking with the funds administration company. It's like, can we at least bill our labor every week? And they were great
Mhm.
about it. We proved the payroll and it went to the project and they kept that funds going. Otherwise, that
Mhm.
contractor couldn't have done it. I really appreciate what you were saying earlier about understanding and negotiating how can we get this project to work from the contractor standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, communication is key. And that's why we don't limit the number of draws per month. There are others that do, and we've chosen not to because that just sends the wrong message to the contractor. Like, these are your funds, they are yours, and we want you to know that you can use them in these approved ways on your project, right? And if you need to draw 4 times a month for payroll, can you pay people weekly? We want to partner with you in that and support you in that. And make sure that we have, of course, the documentation that we need, but you have the cash flow that you need to make it work. So I think that's really important.
And I guess my CPA hat, what we do is working with contractors on the back end and the back office services. One of the
Mhm.
problems I sometimes have is, okay, the draw comes in, but the cash went straight to the funds administration. So the bookkeeping
Mhm.
people, whoever it is, they don't, you're smiling. I can tell you know where I'm going with this. Getting that flow of data both ways. That's what I was talking about a little while ago. So,
Yeah, that's really important. Of course, we monitor our accounts daily, and we will send contractors an email that shows them what came into their account. And then every time we do a draw, they'll get a transactions report that shows everything that's come in, everything that's gone out for the life of the project so that they have a full picture of exactly where things are and a reconciliation at the bottom of what the current balance is and things like that. So we think that access to data is really important. They have to have that, obviously, to put those transactions on their books and keep things flowing on their end.
Nolan, what other things do you think our listeners need to know about funds administration in your company that they may not think about, of why it may be a good option and what other services you provide? I thought it was interesting to read about just lenders and home builders. What a nightmare that is, making sure everyone's paid and that there are no liens on the project and that the home is finished, whether
That's
it's
right.
a spec home or not. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yes, we do residential too, which is really unique. And really, we got into that honestly just because it feels so important for there to be an option on the market for people who are having homes built and making sure that the contractor and the home builder and the owner are on the same page on where things are. But yes, we do bid assessments to make sure the surety wants and third party assessment to make sure that the bid is appropriate. We'll do cash flow modeling, like I said, on the projects, and that can be solicited by the surety or the contractor, or whoever wants better insight onto really the needs of the working capital needs of the project. And yes, we do the funds administration service for the residential side and the commercial side for developers, for owners, and for lenders. And lenders, we actually will do inspections as well, and we integrate inspections in a unique way on our projects. We don't think that they're always necessary to be performed by us because oftentimes, and hopefully, they're already being performed by the owner before the funds are remitted to us, before the pay app is approved. So if we feel confident that's happening and that the performance side is mitigated by the time we get the funds, then that's great. And then sometimes we'll just develop an inspection plan at the beginning of the project. What do we want this to look like from our end? Do we want to send somebody out twice on the project just to get boots on the ground from our perspective and share that with the stakeholders? So we'll do inspections on projects that we're engaged on for funds administration or not, just to support our surety partners. Maybe they didn't think funds administration was necessary and something happened on the project and they're like, hey, we just need somebody to get out there and let us know what's going on. They can partner with us and get somebody out there. But from a contractor perspective, I think just knowing that we're a partner for them, that we're there, yes, to make sure that the surety's comfortable or the owner's comfortable and sees what's going on, but we really are there to hopefully make their lives as easy as we can and provide those guardrails. Like I have this one, I always smile thinking about this one account that I have. There was a lady, she
I
was a
don't believe
controller,
those
and she was
figures are
so
accurate.
against the idea of funds administration because she said, this is our cash. What do you mean you're going to hold this cash and you're going to control it? And the whole idea of it felt a bit violating to her, I think. And she fought it so hard. I remember talking to the surety underwriter, like, do we even do this? It's tough to start a project that way. And should we even, try this? And so we just decided, okay, let's do it. Let's try this one. And she will not take it off of her projects. It's not a requirement anymore for her. And yet she wants it on her projects because she knows our team. We feel like an extension of her now, and we're taking some things off her plate and we're keeping those guardrails up. And she's managing a ton of different projects, and she knows the ones that we're on are going to be down a straight path. And we're keeping her just informed of what's going on, and it's a support for her. So that's one of my favorite success stories because it can be a shock to learn that funds administration is required. I understand the initial, wait, they don't trust us, or somebody else is going to hold all of this all of these funds that we've earned. I do understand that. And also, sometimes it's just nice to remember that it's not personal. It feels personal to contractors when it's added as a condition. That I, running a business myself, everything upside related feels personal to me. So I don't judge contractors for that. But if you can remove the personal feelings a little bit and just think of it through the eyes of a surety, they just wanted some monitoring. If they don't have somebody like us on a project, they have no idea how it's going. And so if they can just get some monthly reports, they're not saying that they don't believe this contractor can't do the work. If they didn't think the contractor could do the work, they wouldn't bond the project. They
That's
just
true.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a certain level of trust involved to even get to a yes. And if they need to add this contingency to get there, it's really not a personal reflection of the contractor as much as it is just a little bit of added assurance. So that's what I would want contractors to remember.
That's great, Nolan. I think you hit the nail on the head. I want this in place. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
I know I've had contractors that can't necessarily get bonded or they don't have any kind of path to them. To wrap us up, what would you say to those contractors that maybe they're just getting started, maybe they don't have the backing, the bonding capacity? How would you approach that?
Mhm. I would tell them to hire you, Wade. I would tell them
Okay.
to get, I mean, truly make sure that they have construction experts behind their books, right? That know bonding like y'all do, that would help them structure their financials appropriately to be ready for their first bond. I think that is really important, right? If they weren't structuring their financials in a way that an underwriter will see potential there, it's going to be really tough. But from our perspective, if there is a contractor that is new to bonding and really wasn't prepared for it, funds administration is a great solution as a tag on to the bond approval to help just kick off that relationship with the surety and say, hey, it's not that we don't think you can do it, it's that we just want you to have support. We want you to have support on these first few projects that are bonded and support that knows bonding, right? Support that understands surety and can align all parties on one page for one purpose. I think that's so important. So I think just as telling the contractor to be open to unique structures like funds administration, letting them know there might be a working capital seed requirement, right? To make sure that funds are put in the escrow account, the project can be cash flowed and build up their back bonded backlog so that the surety does establish that relationship and build trust to support larger projects for them.
All right. Well, we again appreciate you being here. How can our listeners contact you?
I would love for them to reach out. We love to talk to contractors. Yes, you can reach out through our website, upsideguarantee.com, or you can email me directly. It's Nolen, Nolen, at upsideguarantee.com. And I would love to hear from you. And I'm on LinkedIn too. So I know contractors aren't usually, but if anybody listening to this podcast is on LinkedIn, feel free to message me. There's several ways to reach me, and y'all can share my contact information. And I'd love to chat with people.
Thanks,
Well,
Nolan.
definitely.
We just hit the tip of the iceberg in understanding everything you do and how you help contractors and owners and lenders and everyone. Get the job done, get it built, get
Mhm.
it finished, get everybody paid, and move on to the next one and help everybody along the way. So thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank y'all so much. This was great. I appreciate y'all. It's an honor to be here and hope you have a great day.
Okay. Yeah, we will put her contact information in the show notes below. If you're hanging out with us, we do this every single week. We appreciate it if you'd like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. It really helps us out and helps us get great guests like Nolan to visit us every now and then. We appreciate you being here. We will see you on the next show.